Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are you ringing the bell, Father Keith?
Yes, good evening. The candidates, would please take the stage. We got a really nice spot there.
I think we might be able to move down a little bit. I think we might be able to move down chairs.
Well, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to have Pastor Frank Canfield join me on stage to do an official welcome and lead us in the prayer. And then Frank is going to lead us in the pledge. There's only a show of hands. How many veterans do we have? I think there's only 3 of us in the room. How many vets? Yeah, there's only 3 of us, so.
On behalf of Eagle's Nest and our staff and congregation, we welcome you here tonight. It's an honor to have you here. We believe very much in being actively engaged and involved in our local community. Will you stand with me, please, as we open in prayer? Our Father God, to whom all honor and glory is to be bestowed, we thank you. We thank you for this wonderful land that you've given us, so rich, so bountiful, and the people. Help us to be stewards, accountable first and foremost to you before voters or anyone else. Now, bless this time together. Help us to be able to agree to disagree, but not be disagreeable. And may this be an awesome evening of discovery, of thoughts and input and where we need to go as a people. We love and worship you now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
To the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Turning down the brightness of the lights.
Pastor Frank, can you turn down the lights a little bit?
These down front. Which one?
It's too early, Bill. We're not making you sweat yet.
No, sir.
Wait till the news crews show up with their lights.
Sorry, Pastor, don't lie. This is being close.
Since 2020, America has been punched in the face. But the crisis isn't what you might expect. The government lockdowns could prove to be the most damaging disruption in the history of American education. Parents, teachers, and children have suffered under the weight of a failing public school system for decades. Educational progress halted. Government woke agendas and explicit and inappropriate materials to innocent children are destroying our kids' potential. Amidst this chaos, one state stands tall. Florida, lauded as the top-rated state for education. However, what are we missing? While many of Florida's government-run schools look great on the surface, numerous are struggling. Enter Florida Citizens Alliance, our mission to revolutionize education. Join us in breaking free from the chains of a broken system. Embrace innovation and support positive change. We need your support to reshape the future of education. Together, we can make a difference.
Well, we're getting a little bit of a late start for those that are watching. We're live streaming this as well. Apparently there was a pretty significant accident out on 75 headed north. But we want to thank you for braving the traffic and being here tonight. Florida Citizens Alliance, most of you know us as being heavily focused on education. But we also, for at least the last 10 years, have been very focused on helping our local voters vote informed. So we're holding a series of forums. This is actually our third forum. We have 2 more coming up. We held an original forum for House District 81. Representative Rommel is term limited, and so there are several candidates running for his seat. We've held a school board forum down at Marco Island. This forum tonight for District 3 and 5, and we'll be doing one more school board forum and one more House District forum over the next several weeks. Our objective, again, and I want to emphasize this, is to help voters vote informed. We have no other objective than that tonight. As you came in, you all received should have received 3 things. One is a issue-based survey that's uniquely for Florida County Commission. We published that widely, and all of the candidates have had the opportunity to fill that out. The second questionnaire you got is a survey on the Constitution. I often get some interesting comments on this. Why are we spending so much energy on the Constitution? I go back 10 or 11 years. One of our Florida Supreme Court justices did a survey here in Florida of voters and asked the simple question, and I won't embarrass anybody here tonight, but without peeking, name the 5 rights in the First Amendment. Only 2% of our voters can do that.
That little girl right there can't keep.
Yes, you certainly can. So we are on a mission, if you will, to help voters reunite them with their Constitution, get them excited about it, and get them engaged on it. So that's part of our objective in helping voters vote informed. For tonight, from a format point of view, we have 2 moderators. Erica Donalds, I think it goes without any real introduction. Erica heads up Optima Ed and has been very involved in education for many years, including being a school board member for 4 of those years. The other gentleman here in front of me is an interesting fellow. He and I go back a long ways. Chris Hudson, obviously, his wife is here, by the way. But Chris has been a real mentor to us over the years. And so he's also probably one of the more knowledgeable people on the issues of politics here in the state of Florida. So we're excited to have him as a moderator as well. We've got 4 ushers that are here. They're students. Joy Sayer and Callie Sayer. Callie is right here in front of me. She's going to be our timekeeper. And then we have Jordan and Aiden Leroy that are in the back. And what they'll be doing is, if you should have received 3x5 card. Feel free to write down questions. They'll be going up and down the aisles and collecting those and bringing them up to the moderators. We have not given the moderators any direction in this event, with one exception. We asked them to use 50% of the questions from you, the audience. So please feel free to participate. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. You guys both have a mic. You guys only have 1 mic, so I'm going to give you a second one so that you have 2 to share. So go ahead.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, for caring enough to stand in front of the voters and answer their questions and ours. We appreciate all of you and appreciate your willingness to serve the people of Collier County. We're going to start, and Chris and I are going to have some fun with this. We'll start with some questions from us. We'll do some lightning round questions, which will require you to say yes or no. And then we'll also, of course, include some questions from the audience. So the first question that I would like to ask is about taxes. A lot of our citizens are very concerned about taxes. We've been very fortunate to have low taxes in our county thanks to our high tax base, but we haven't had much luck, despite campaign promises, in lowering those taxes or using the rollback rate. So talk to us. This is not a lightning round question, so you can tell us your philosophy on new taxes, increasing taxes, utilizing the rollback rate in the future. So we will start with Mr. McDaniel.
Erica, do you mind if we ask each of them quickly to open for 90 seconds?
Oh, yes. I just did the same thing that Christine did in the last one. Yes. No, except for McDaniel. No, I'm kidding.
Except for Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, Commissioner McDaniel can start with his 90-second opener. Thank you.
And then just as a point of discussion, how long do we have to answer these questions?
1 minute.
1 minute from time. And what's your
Yeah, see, I did you a favor so you can think about the first question. This is
What's our timekeeper's name?
My name is Callie.
Callie.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Bill McDaniel. In my other introductions, I've gone along and talked about how long I've been here, 42 years, how many kids I have, 2 kids, daughter 27, Kelly, and my son is William. They attended public schools here, but for the rest of my resume, please visit my website, votebillmcdaniel.com. There's a whole bio on there. It says probably more than you really wanted to know. Tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about my message. When I ran to become your county commissioner in 2016, I promised predominantly 4 things: jobs, reduction in taxes, economic prosperity, and term limits. And I feel like I have effectuated all of those things. I was the leader in bringing the Great Wolf Lodge to Collier County. We were successful last year for the first time in my tenure of moving to rollback rate for the first time in 7 years since I became a commissioner. If you want economic prosperity, sometime drive to Immokalee and see the improvements in infrastructure that we have implemented to take an economically deprived community ultimately to the moon. And last but not least was term limits. And Commissioner Saunders and I, we effectuated that within 125 days of our election. Is that quick?
And we will note that Commissioner McDaniel's opponent, Mr. Rodriguez, is not present this evening. So he will be answering questions for his district by himself. Mr. Yarnell, your 90 seconds.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take Commissioner McDaniel, his lead, where he said, please visit my website for more information at yarnellforcollier.com, information about me. But I would not be here but for the support and love of my family, my beautiful wife, Evie, and my 4 sons. So I am here for that reason. Faith, family, and community is the motto of my campaign. I'm here based on my faith, that I believe I have a calling for this position. I am here for my family to help make a great community even better. I moved here, my parents did in 1979. I've lived here, I grew up here, I went to school here. I've ran my business here for 25 years. I also am very involved in my church covenant, and I'm also involved in several coaching for lacrosse and soccer. I've been very involved in the community. Why I'm running is I want to see this county remain strong, be the best county that we can be, in the best state, in the best country in the world. I would say that my platform is relatively simple. I want lower taxes, protection of individual liberties and rights. I want to support our first responders, and we want to enhance the infrastructure of our community. We all can agree that the infrastructure is lacking in regard to roadways especially. So I believe in personal responsibility. Thank you.
For everyone who cannot see, our awesome timekeeper, Callie, is going to hold this yellow piece of paper up at 10 seconds. 10 seconds is your reminder that the yellow piece of paper is important. Mr. Saunders.
Thank you very much. My name is Bert Saunders. Obviously, I'm running for re-election to the County Commission District 3. I learned a long time ago to be very cautious in following Bill McDaniel's lead, but in this case, I will follow Bill and suggest that there's a lot of information at my webpage at bertsaundersforcollier.com, and I would encourage you to take a look at that for basic information about who I am, what I've accomplished, and what my goals are. I want to spend just a second talking about what I think is the most important function of government, and that is protecting all our citizens and visitors from crime and violence. And so I'm proud to say that Collier County is one of the safest, if not the safest county in the state. And so that's not an accident. It's because this commission has always fully funded our sheriff's department. I also want to say that we all say that the next election is the most important election in our history. All elections are important. August 20th is an important election, but I think a more important election, quite frankly, is in November. And I know that all of you are interested in the 2 constitutional amendments, and I hope that people really study the deceiving nature of Amendment number 4, dealing with abortion. That amendment is so broad that it's my sincere hope that everyone gets out and votes in opposition to that. And so with that, I ask for your support, and I ask for your vote on August 20th, another important election in Collier County.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, and thank you to Florida Citizens Alliance for putting this evening together so that we can talk directly to the voters about our views in this important election. My name is Frank Roberts, and I'm running for County Commissioner in District 3, and I'm doing so because I think we need a new generation of leadership in Collier County. I am of District 3. I go to church at St. Elizabeth Seton. You can talk to the pastor, Father Casey, about my involvement there every week. And, I face the same challenges that you do in trying to get your kids to the various activities, to school on time, and then turn around to go to work. Also, I want to represent you and make sure that your voices are heard on the Board of County Commissioners. And I want to bring that family focus to the policies and the priorities in the agenda for the board. Secondly, we need to face the issues of what's been happening, not just with government overreach at the federal level, but at the local level too, and the impact that continues to have on our kids every day. Really, the largest mental health provider in the county is really the public school systems, and those were shut down for a number of years. And kids didn't have access to their normal sorts of friends, and they continue to see the impact of being shut away from schools, as we see in the scores diminishing into the future. So, we really need to pay the focus on what's happening with our children now and in the future, and really, try to take that long view of not only the traffic, but the housing, but what that's going to look for our kids when they get to our seats. And thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Johnson.
Hi, how are you? My name is John C. Johnson, originally from Chicago. Moved down here in 2007. Luckily for me, Florida was having a terrible crisis with housing, and I had a pocket full of cash, so I did very well for myself. Still own a bunch of those properties. That's why some of the things I want to see change definitely is the permit system is absolutely horrific here. Once you apply for a permit, you should be able to start work, not wait months and months before it's issued. Affordable housing isn't a 3,000 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. Stop the growth through parks, recreation. We need more parks and recreation. In Chicago, every neighborhood had a park. It had baseball fields, it had basketball courts. Some of them had swimming pools. We have none of that. For a very wealthy county, the kids need more places to go. The other thing is veterans. I am a lifetime auxiliary member of the VFW. I am not a veteran. I support everything there can be for veterans. I can't say the veterans endorse me anymore because we got hollered at for that. So those are the things I want to change. The other thing that I want to say is I have 15 seconds, so I'm going to call it quits right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we will note that Mr. Conover is also present for the District 3 portion of the forum. And if we could get a repeat of your question, Erica, then maybe they can get underway and answer your original question.
I give you plenty of time to think about the question on taxation. I think this is on top of mind for many of our citizens. Your philosophy on setting the tax rate for the citizens of Collier County, and what you would do differently than what the current commission is doing, or the same. How would you be different or the same as the decisions that have recently been made by the county commission regarding taxes? And we're going to start on the other end here with Mr. Johnson.
Well, those are the things that are going to separate me from the rest of the candidates. I am 150% in favor of putting the 1 penny sales tax back in place. $550 million was raised over them 5 years, which simple math comes down to $110 million a year, with 70% of that, from my understanding, what I got from the county clerk, was paid by tourists. If you take a look at the population increase here, the people that buy that, somebody said, well, what about the poor people? I said, well, there's not really many poor people here. I said, if that's the case, if they bought a $20,000 car, it would be an extra $200. What about the guy that buys the $500,000 Rolls Royce? Let those people pay our bills. I've been in business. The way to successful business is have somebody pay for your bills.
Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. So my basic policies toward taxation is to keep it as low as possible. I'm not in favor of extending the 1% sales tax because there are actually a lot of poor people, and there's a lot of poor people in District 3, specifically in Golden Gate City, who would be adversely affected, who are already living worse than paycheck to paycheck and trying to make ends meet in these hard economic times. And for every dime dollar and $100 bill that's put in for taxes is another one that's not in your pocket. And I'm a firm belief that you know better how to spend your money than the government does. And that's the basic philosophy that needs to begin. We need to explore how we can cut out government bloat and start reducing the overhead that government necessarily needs, but without reducing the need to serve and protect the community, which is the most basic function of the community as well. So again, my policy toward taxation is as low as possible to keep the community running, to make sure the police and fire have everything they need, including whatever mental health services that they need for the direct mental traumas, but keep it out of the government's hands and keep it in the people's.
During our last budget hearing last year, I made a motion to reduce the millage rate, to roll it back. Not all the way to the rollback millage rate, but about half the way there. And that motion actually passed unanimously. It was changed in the second budget hearing. I did vote against going to the rollback millage rate. And the reason I voted against that is because in order to balance our budget at that point, the commission took $53 million out of Conservation Hire. Now, I thought, and I do believe, that Conservation Hire is a tool that we can use to reduce growth, to provide more parks, to protect our water supply, protect our flora and fauna. And so I do support reducing taxes as greatly as possible, but I just felt that the rollback millage rate was a little bit too much. Now, if the commission goes to the rollback millage rate year after year after year, that is a recipe for disaster. And I'll talk more about that in the next round.
Mr. Yarnell.
Thank you. I do support the rollback millage rate. I think it was a good plan by the commissioners. I do know that, as Mr. Saunders said, he opposed that. I think lowering taxes makes sense, especially with our tax base growing, with more people moving down here and the impact fees, things that are collected. I believe that any kind of taxation should be kept at a minimum, and it should be earmarked first for first responders, health and safety, and our infrastructure, because those, I think, are the key components that the county commission should be focusing on. I also am against any kind of penny sales tax reinstatement. I believe, again, there's better use that people can have for their own money. The government does not need to keep dipping in their pockets, and I will fight long and hard against any tax increase that will affect the citizens of Collier County.
Well, if you continue to do what you've always done and expect magnanimously different results, you're going to get what you get. Our property values continue to go up, and Republicans say they're not raising your taxes when we stay rate neutral. I remember one of my favorite school board members lobbying really hard for a $9 million reduction for our electorate when there was a voluminous increase in property values, and the folks she was talking to didn't get it. Now, I'll also argue you can't cut your way to prosperity, but for 7 years I have lobbied for a tax reduction for our electorate unsuccessfully. I am the one that made the motion to reduce the taxes by $62 million, pull that 52 out of Conservation Collier, and, by the way, pay back that money.
It was 10 million, just saying.
Your math was wrong there, sir. She said it was 10. Okay, so for the folks who are watching, I think it's time to spice this up a little bit. This has been a pretty busy week for the county commission, so we have a few folks who've had their hand on the football, so to speak. But as someone who is an undecided voter in District 3, who used to be in District 5, I'm curious. How do you think about private property rights relative to vacation rentals? That debate is going on today. If you were sitting in the same chair, if you've been sitting on the dais this week, how would you have talked to your fellow board members? What would have been your position on vacation rentals?
Yeah, so I'm like you. I'm one of those people that used to be District 5. That was then transitioned into District 3 during the reorganization. But it's pretty simple. I believe that if it's my property, then I should be able to do with it as I want. And so I support the ability to rent out extra space on your properties, extra rooms, extra guest houses, to people for your economic advantage. It's a good use of your property. It's a way to generate value. It's a way to alleviate the affordable housing crisis in a way that supports the free market ideas that we all subscribe to as conservatives. And I don't think we necessarily need, the extreme types of government oversight on it, besides the obvious of, dumping, waste into the canals or that sort of thing. But, take reasonable measures with the permitting in order to get it done. So, again, I'm all for the property rights of owners to be able to make a value from their properties.
The issue of short-term rentals and property rights is kind of a two-edged sword, if you will. You have the property owner that wants to rent their property out, and they have certain rights to do so under Florida law. As a matter of fact, the county commission has almost no jurisdiction whatsoever to deal with short-term rentals. But on the other side of the coin is the neighbors. They have property rights as well. And you'll take a place like Marco Island, where there are tremendous problems in some of the neighborhoods because with short-term rentals, sometimes you get renters that are there for a week and they're there to have loud parties, and it disturbs the peace and quiet of residents. And so it is a two-edged sword. I support being able to rent your property as a short-term rental. I'm a little disappointed in that the legislature has tied the counties and cities' hands in terms of trying to keep some control over it, because those property owners, those neighbors, they have a right also to the quiet enjoyment of their property.
Thank you. Under our Constitution, we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, property rights. We also have our own property rights. I support the fact to be able to use your own property for purposes that are legal and that are not to the detriment of anyone. These should be allowed. I would say that if you're going to build, I believe there's two portions to this, whether you can have short-term rentals, of course you should be able to, but also to build either a rental on your property, on larger parcels of property, or a mother-in-law suite or what have you. Those should be allowed. However, it should be allowed across the board. No one should be treated differently. If it'll help with rentals as well as what I call attainable housing rather than affordable housing, these can be rented out and help some of our housing crisis that is very prominent here in Collier County. Thank you.
Yes. Now, were you speaking specifically about the vote on the allowance for rentals in Golden Gate Estates Urban that we just did on Tuesday?
You're more than welcome to talk about that, but I'm specifically asking about if you have property rights relative to vacation.
With regard to property rights are absolutely sacred to me. I believe you should be able to do with your property as you see fit. As has already been said, you also can't inconvenience your neighbors at the same time. So one of the few restrictions we put on that vote was to allow for the construction of and the leasing of a guest home on your property in the urban estates, which is west of 951 Collier Boulevard, west of 951, on homesteaded property. The rationale there is to have a property owner that is there that can stand responsible for poor activity that might transpire from one of their tenants.
Mr. Johnson.
I obviously have some VRBOs. I think they're fine. It comes down to anything, who takes care of it, who manages it, set the standards right away. I mean, said I'm in a rental business. I never had a lease in my life. I tell people, if you don't like it, you can leave. And it's the same thing with my VRBOs. You either do it my way or there's the highway. The other thing, though, that is very important with all of these is that nobody addressed is there are short-term rentals. So I wanted to make sure they're monitored very heavily so that we make sure that we get, guess what, our tourist tax off of those people that are renting so that we can keep our property taxes down by having tourists pay our bills.
Thank you. And since this was brought up in that conversation, I'm going to go ahead and ask about the topic of affordable or attainable or whatever type of housing that you want. It was mentioned a housing crisis. There's been lots of money thrown at the quote problem of housing. I'm not going to call it an affordable housing crisis. What I would like to ask a more broad question. What is the role of county government in terms of funding or providing or assisting with the housing costs of residents? And we're going to start with Mr. Saunders.
Thank you. The good news is in Collier County that we have about 2,000 affordable workforce housing type units that have already been constructed and are already rented out. That's occurred over the last couple of years. We have another 2,000 that have been approved. So the county commission is really trying to address this problem. I do believe there is a role for government in assisting in the development of workforce and affordable housing. There are federal grants that the county takes advantage of. In the 1 cent sales tax that just sunsetted, there was, I believe, $20 million set aside for the county to acquire property to assist in the development of workforce housing. There is a role, there is a problem, and I can tell you that the county commission is aggressively seeking solutions in solving that problem.
Mr. Yarnell.
Thank you. I believe that the county government's role should be limited. I believe in the free market system. I believe in supply and demand economics. I believe that the county commission can help out in regard to permitting. The permitting department can help out with that, and using some more mixed use type of structures, as well as density issues and some variances in that regard. Also, the use of public land for some of those as well that could be utilized, but not at the expense of the taxpayers. So I would say that I do not believe in housing subsidies, and I don't think that that would benefit the folks of Collier County.
Personally, I don't believe in government subsidization for housing. I missed the memo that went out that it became Collier County's job to provide you with a home that was affordable. We do have a duty, though. Our #1 job is to keep our families and neighborhoods safe, and having those folks that work for us in the police department, sheriff's department, nurses, and so on, first responders, having a place in close proximity to where they work to live. So what I have actually done is adjusted the system in regard to affordable housing. I adjusted the previous hold period for density bonuses for affordable housing was only 15 years. We adjusted that to 30 years, both in rentals and in ownership. And then when the government is subsidizing housing in the affordable housing projects, developments that you've heard us talk about, we required that they are held in perpetuity so that there isn't this rollover that happens every 15 years.
I totally, again, think out of the box on this. I talked to Lauren Malo. My idea is to build condos, not apartments. Build the condos, roughly 1,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, nice and small, no overhead involved. Nobody's renting, nobody's doing anything. Put police, firefighters, county workers in them. A nice condo like that there, being a builder, I think we could probably come in between $120,000, $150,000. I have to talk fast because of the time, and they would get a conventional loan. The county would get paid 100% back, all their expenses. The key then to keep it affordable, that house, that condo would not go up more than 2% a year. They would build equity in that house, in that condo, so that in 8 or 10 years, when they wanted to sell, they could sell it with equity instead of loss of rent. But the key to keep it affordable, it only goes up 2% a year.
So my position on affordable housing is any time the government gets involved in subsidizing housing, they are picking winners and losers, which professions that they prefer or not. So when you talk about, subsidizing teacher housing or firefighter housing, well, that's objectively great, and I am the son of a fireman, and I appreciate the mind that goes into that. I would also say that the AC technicians, the electricians, the plumbers, the tradesmen who keep our houses running are equally important as to the firefighters. It's not the position or the realm of the government to choose which profession is better than others, and so that's what I would find problematic about tying it to whatever occupation you're a part of. Furthermore, as a county commissioner, it's not my position to propose new projects, but to simply review them and evaluate their impact on the community. Does the one-room studio apartment really help families stay together, or does it break apart families who need additional jobs to get done? So that's my approach.
All right, thank you for those answers. We are going to move to a lightning round. And our good friend Callie here is going to hold up that red piece of paper. If you decide to be a politician and speak longer than the word yes or the word no. Are we clear about yes and no? Nod of the head from the panel.
Let me raise my right hand, yes.
Yes. All right. Okay, the first one is from the audience, and we just to make it quick, we'll get back to the normal order. Mr. Yarnell, you will be next. So, from the audience, do you support the right to shoot guns in Golden Gate Estates as we have now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Another one from the audience. Have you taken, and this one we'll start with you, Mr. McDaniel, have you taken support by lobbyists, special interest groups, or developers?
Well, I'll take support from developers, yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
And because we heard it earlier, Mr. Johnson, so we have your answer, we're going to ask again another lightning round question. Do you support renewing the 1 cent sales surtax?
100, yes.
Yes. No. Nope. No, I do not support the surtax.
Does that mean maybe?
It means no. I was thinking about his answer.
No.
No.
Can we just yell? No.
We have lots of voices down in this end, so.
Okay, back to yours.
Thank you for following the rules, guys, and this is going to be an audience question, which I think is very appropriate for everyone who made their way here tonight. What is your view on the unbridled growth along the Mockley Road, and how will you attempt to change it, and your fellow commissioners? What are you going to do about the traffic out there? And yes, let's start with Mr. Garrett.
The unbridled growth is not going to change. We have people moving down here every day. What I would say is, if we're talking specifically about traffic, we need to continue to do some of the things that we are doing right now with respect to having the through lanes on the turns. We have to finish up with the infrastructure improvements like on Vanderbilt extension. That's going to alleviate a lot of the traffic, because the east-west corridors are the major problems right now, other than 75. Unbridled growth, it's kind of a loaded question. I believe that we're not going to stop growth, so we have to prepare. We also need to actually develop areas out where other communities are to be able to provide the services and amenities that they need to go ahead and not have to travel here into the western side of the county. So those would be what I would do.
Growth is inevitable. We have no say-so on who gets to come or not come. If you take our growth management plan with the current existing vested property rights that are existent today, our community tips out between 800,000 and 1 million people. Like it or don't, that's what it is. We're halfway home. Our job is to manage this inevitable growth, incentivize its location in as close a proximity to our already very expensive subsurface infrastructure. The other side of that is to provide for services in the east where the development is in fact transpiring, so that the folks that live out there can work out there, recreate out there, and not have to come in and travel on our already constrained road system. Last but not least is the reprioritization from a budgetary standpoint on the expenditure of your tax money. We moved infrastructure right up underneath the most important which is keeping my families and neighborhoods safe. Infrastructure next.
Mr. Johnson.
I think it's way too late. Mr. Saunders brought up he wanted to have a moratorium on building, and I went to that meeting, and I said 35 years ago somebody should have looked at these gated communities. There's over 53 gated communities on Immokalee alone. Over 100,000 people have to use Immokalee just to get into a gated community. Another 100,000 people have to use it to get out to the states where they live. Planning was terrible 30 years ago, and they continue to let gated communities in. There's no way you can traverse a gated community. Island Walk is a perfect example. 2,000 homes, one entrance. They put an exit onto Logan so people could leave, but they can't get in there. There's 2,000 homes. They were complaining about the 250-unit building being built across the street. And I said, what did you think in 1997 when people that were living here, you told them you're going to build, I think it's 1,967 homes. I said, what do you think they thought then?
Right, so growth again has to be managed. It's not going to be stopped because Collier County is simply a paradise, especially for conservatives in the area. We are a model for the rest of the country in our policies and our approach to government. That being said, managing growth has to begin with managing the infrastructure and making sure that works. There are plenty of bottlenecks, not just on Immokalee Road, but on Golden Gate Boulevard, on Vanderbilt, on Pine Ridge Road, that are all in place. And so we need to find ways to alleviate those bottlenecks and try to avoid massive expenditures like big expensive flyovers or things that are going to be taking a lot of your tax dollars and reprioritizing them from other areas. So, a couple ideas that have already been in the works with the commissioners are the light switching, similar to what's on Pine Ridge Road, that marries up all those lights so well that you can get from Collier Boulevard all the way to the beach within 15 minutes, and applying that across the board to more areas. Secondly, I want to see more east-west connecting streets like Green Boulevard, and specifically the intersection with Santa Barbara prioritized.
Let me first state that when I was in the Florida legislature, I voted for the Byrd-Harris property rights legislation that protects us from the overreach of government. When I was in the Senate, I sponsored a bill that became part of the Florida Constitution protecting our property rights. I say that because I'm a firm believer in being able to develop your property, but at the same time, that growth has to be managed. The proposal that I had for Immokalee Road and for Vanderbilt Beach Road wasn't to stop building at all. That was not even part of it. What it was to stop amending our comprehensive plan on a lot-by-lot basis until we got a handle on transportation. We have to manage growth, and to manage growth, you have to have the infrastructure in place to deal with the growth that comes. That was what I was trying to do. I believe that a short-term moratorium on land use, comprehensive land use changes would have helped give us some time, a breathing time, to build the infrastructure on Immokalee Road, Vanderbilt Beach Road, and other areas that impact that location.
Thank you. All right, we're going back to the lightning round, but I have been given very clear instruction that our viewers and listeners online would appreciate it if you did speak into the microphone so they can hear your answer. So we'll start with the first one. Again, this is yes or no. Does the county have an impact fee addiction? That is from the audience.
Who's starting?
Yes.
No. Yes.
No.
Yes.
There were some differences there. Next question. Do you believe we need to incentivize or subsidize private businesses to open up shop in Collier County? Start with you, Mr. Johnson.
No. No. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Next up, start with you, Mr. Roberts. Do you believe we need to spend Collier County tax dollars to tell America where Collier County is?
No. Yes. Pardon me, yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
No differences. Back
Oh,
to you,
good
Erica.
job, Chris. That's a good moderator, asking questions that differentiate the candidates. You like it. All right, I'm gonna open it up a little bit and give you a chance to talk about really what's important to you and why you're running for this office. So over the next term, what are your top priorities going to be to accomplish over the next 4 years for our citizens of Collier County? More than one, no more than three. Top 2 or 3 priorities that you want to accomplish over the next 4 years if you are elected or re-elected. And we start with Mr. McDaniel.
Yeah, I was sharing with some folks in the back earlier that I'm as excited today to be serving as your county commissioner as I naively was in 2016 when I got elected. I'm a systems guy. I want to adjust how Collier County is conducting, how it's doing its business. We can't just keep going along and doing the same thing all the time. And we have started to do that. I moved last year, and now your Board of County Commissioners works year-round. We're no longer 100,000 less fishing community. We did the first time rollback rate last year. We have engaged in zero-based, that's old guy accounting terminology, zero-based budgeting. It's now called priority budgeting. We have adjusted the priorities of our staff in the preparation of our budgets.
We'll go back to, does Collier County have a impact happiness? The reason I said no, in 2008 I built my first house. My impact fees were $34,000 and I had to pay him before I stuck a shovel in the ground. Fast forward to 2022, my impact fees on my house went down to $17,000 and I didn't have to pay him till the house was CO'd. So that's why I want the permit change to be something that I really go after. The permitting process is a disaster. The other thing I would like to see is these condominiums built so that we can get housing in the right direction for the right people. And number 3 would be make sure with the veterans, whatever we can do for the veterans as soon as we can. And a quick number 4, definitely the 1% tax.
So my 3 priorities are, number 1, families first, number 2, a COVID-19 after action report, and number 3 is sanctuary county for the unborn. And I say those 3 things. Families first means being responsive and there for you. I know you've got busy schedules. I know you're trying to get to work on time. I know you're fighting the traffic. You're fighting the housing issues. I want to be the commissioner that's there for you, that understands your problems every day, the one that's trying to find the economical, conservative solutions to those problems that you face, and cutting down the response times in order to get these things done. Number 2, the COVID-19 after action report. I believe in government accountability and transparency of actions. We don't want to look back 100 years at the 2020 decisions that were made and say that was the precedent, that's what we did, let's do it again. No, we need to go back and write down exactly what happened, what the shutdown of the schools that affected their mental health and the test scores. We need to look back at the businesses that were affected and closed to the maximum capacities that were in place. And then Sanctuary County of the Unborn is a way for Collier County to lead the way in the national debates.
I want to continue to make sure that Collier County remains the safest county in Florida. That means fully funding the sheriff's operations. So I think that's always priority number 1, and obviously we all want to solve the transportation problems. I've said many times I want to make Collier County the most veteran-friendly county in the state. Governor DeSantis has said he wants to make Florida the most veteran-friendly state in the union. Now, we have a veterans campus that I've been working on for about 6 years now, and is about to come to fruition, involving a veterans nursing home, a veterans adult day health care, a veterans rehabilitation facility, along with a veterans facility to house all of our veteran services on a campus. I want to continue to develop that campus. We need to recognize those heroes that risk their lives for us. I know we have a veteran here, and I always want to thank Frank for his service, but we need to continue to make this a really special place for our veterans.
I would say my priorities are going to be, once again, health and safety, supporting our first responders, keeping Collier County safe and appealing. Also, working on the infrastructure. Clearly, we have roadway issues, we have traffic issues, we have, I also group into that the attainable housing issue. One thing that hasn't been mentioned yet, water quality issues are very big with me. Restoration Everglades, I'm fully supportive of what they're doing with that, and I think that needs to continue to work in conjunction with that, both in the private and public sector. Finally, the Sanctuary County for the Unborn is very important to me. My wife actually works for the Sunlight Home, which is a nonprofit that helps battered, abused, and trafficked women. That's that become pregnant, and that is a cause that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to work by my wife's side to try to defeat Amendment 4 and also push for a Sanctuary County.
Thank you. All right, we will start with you, Mr. Johnson. I have 3 audience questions here that are very, very similar. So, I think the
Pick one, Chris. Go ahead, pick one.
No. I'm gonna give you all 3 at one time, actually.
Okay. And then 3 minutes to answer.
Pardon me?
And then 3 minutes to answer.
No, 90 seconds. No, 60 seconds. Sorry. No.
Okay.
So, real important question. People want to know how you're going to think about the issues. How you're going to include different stakeholders in the conversation. We have one question here that asks how you will specifically include the Spanish-speaking community into your decision-making framework when you take votes on the county commission. We have one here that asks specifically how you will take into account the thought processes of those trying to move to Collier County as you consider your votes and strategies on the commission. And broadly, the audience would like to know how do you ground yourself and how do you think about the issues alongside the stakeholders? Question to you, Mr. Johnson.
Well, let's address the Hispanics. I have rentals, and guess what? They're all in Golden Gate City, which the majority of them are Hispanics. We keep our rent down. They're usually $400 or $500 a month less. I understand the burden on them. They're very, very nice people. I actually am in, if you're familiar with the 7 stores, the owners there have given me permission to put signs up because they know the support that I have. As far as being grounded, I grew up dirt poor in the city of Chicago. I became very successful, and the most important thing to me is to be nice. And that is important. Wealth doesn't mean crap. Being nice is more important. And the third one was,
That's it.
those were the basic questions. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, so outreach is important in my campaign. I've taken great measures already to try to reach those individuals who don't normally participate in the process, to reach the Hispanic communities and other minorities in the area. I have a page on my website already in Spanish so that they can understand me and understand my issues. I've had a booth set up in the Golden Gate Farmers Market, half dozen or more times already, just talking to those voters in that community. I go to St. Elizabeth Seton Church that has a vibrant and very alive Hispanic community, Spanish masses. I attended their Our Lady of Guadalupe festival this past December, and I greatly appreciate the life and the vitality that they show in their community, and I want to support them in any way that I could. As to what grounds me and how I make decisions, it is that Catholic identity, that Christian Catholic identity, how I form my moral beliefs and how I view government. I believe our conservative ideals are in line with that, and I judge every decision I make based on those ideals.
Thank you. Before I was elected to the Florida legislature, I was on the county commission quite a long time ago. And I had the commission at that time establish the Black Affairs Advisory Board and the Hispanic Affairs Advisory Board. And I'm proud to say those 2 advisory boards are still in place and still advising the board, the county commission, on issues that affect those 2 communities. I've voted against several different projects, and I've said this at county commission meetings. I wouldn't want this project in my backyard. I wouldn't want this on my street. The zoning doesn't fit the issue. The comprehensive plan doesn't apply. It would be violated. So I'll vote against changing a comp plan and changing a zoning law on a project that I know will negatively impact a whole community. That's not being in violation of property rights. That's just recognizing that when you buy a piece of property with existing zoning and existing comprehensive plan coverage, that's the bundle of rights you've bought. You're not necessarily entitled to increase those at the expense of the neighbors.
My guiding principle is and always will be my faith in God and also our Republican form of government. And I would say that You have to get out and actually speak with people and speak with different groups and listen to opinions. The door-to-door is huge. Getting out and listening to people. I've always heard that you learn a lot more by listening than you ever do talking. So getting out to different communities, knocking door to door, I would open myself up to any opinion, and I'll listen to anyone. May not agree, but I think first is to actually engage people, whether they're current voters, past voters, or they've never voted at all. Everyone's opinion is important, and you've got to consider that. And it's got to be in the best interests of the people and the residents of Collier County. We are going to be here to serve the residents of Collier County, not to dictate and mandate our wishes. So that's my guiding principle.
Thank you.
As far as speaking different languages, I do it every single day. I'm in Immokalee every single Wednesday. We have 3 different languages out there. I don't, by the way, speak anything but English, but when folks are in need of a translator, we have Latin Spanish translators, Creole, and Hmong in Immokalee. I'm in Immokalee every Wednesday. I'm in Golden Gate Estates all of the time. So managing that aspect of it, that's how we go. As far as people, I think the second question had to do with people moving here. Find a good realtor. There's no one better on the planet to help you learn about a community than a good realtor, where the school districts are, where the shopping is, where the entertainment is, so on and so forth. And as far as my grounding principles, really, really simple. My very, very strong Christian belief system and the Constitution of both the state of Florida and these United States.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Conservation Collier, which has been a bit of a controversy. How much should they receive to that initiative? Should we be pulling money out for other priorities? What is your philosophy on Conservation Collier? How would you change the current state of affairs, or would you keep things the same? And we're going to start with you, Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, so Conservation Collier was passed by will of the voters, and so that's number one. I respect the will of the voters that they want this program in place, and from my understanding, there's two aspects to the program. One, the actual acquisition of lands for conservation, and then 2, the maintenance of those lands into the future as well. So while I personally probably would not have voted for it at the time, I respect that the voters do want it, but it's that second program of just setting money aside in perpetuity and just continuing to add to the pot. It kind of goes against the economic principles of putting money into the stream of commerce and making it work for the community there. So while I recognize the concern that conservationists have about the money coming out of Conservation Collier, we're putting that money to use, and we're putting it to use in the county. And because we're putting it to use in the county, we're increasing the value of living in Collier County, and thereby we provide the funds to be able to put back into the county from there. So it's not that we're stopping the acquisition of conservation areas, it's that it's putting money back into the stream of commerce.
I think there's a couple of misconceptions. Number one, a lot of people feel that about 2/3 of Collier County is in state, federal, and local ownership. And everybody says, well, that's more than enough. But if you go to Dade County, which is a bigger county and a much higher population, they have a higher percentage of property that is in state, federal, and local ownership. So the fact that we have a large area that is in preserve doesn't mean that we don't need to preserve some more. And Conservation Collier, there's another misconception. The misconception is that you collect all the money one year, and every year you spend all of it. Well, that's not the way the program works. You collect the money over a 10-year period, and you spend it as properties become available. We are getting ready to approve the acquisition of the Williams property. It's about a $22 million acquisition, most of which will be paid for Conservation Collier. That'll deplete Conservation Collier at this point, but there may be another property that becomes available that would be very important to protect our flora and fauna, protect our well fields, protect the very things that have attracted all of us to this county.
Conservation Collier is an entity that was voted on by the voters, so that is the voters' will. I would state that, and I've stated this before, that I think it should be audited and made sure that it's meeting its original intent and how it was presented to the voters. If there is additional money available, as there is as of right now, and it has been used in the past, I think that was a proper use of the funds. If it's going to be reintroduced, or the funds are going to be brought back. I would also suggest that there might need to be a sunset clause on it to let this particular conservation collier, let it be voted on again by the voters, to just make sure, after all the information is out there, to make sure it's doing what the intent of the program was.
We already have made adjustments in the conservation collier ordinance. We have allowed for some flexibility by your Board of County Commissioners to utilize those monies in a deemed emergency circumstance to be able to shift it away from. We are making provisions now, when we made that move last year, to repay that $52 million that was utilized to fund the budget as our staff had brought it forward, to repay that at rate neutral. Conservation collier is going to come in close to $35 million, with an additional $35 million in collected taxation this particular year. I prefer the rural land stewardship overlay. That's a land use plan in eastern Collier County. It encompasses in excess of 200,000 acres. We've protected approximately, my clock says 7 seconds. I was joking with the young lady. 6 seconds. Talk about the RLSA at another time.
I'm for conservation, 100%. Again, like I said, parks, recreation should be in more of these communities. I don't know exactly where they were talking about, but I was watching on news that something about protect the Panthers area where these builders wanted to go in. And again, went to bed a little early. But I'm totally against anything like that there that's going to affect our wildlife. I think we should have more and more land. We don't need any more people here that we already have. The infrastructure can't handle it. We're going to have water issues. We're going to have sewer issues. So I'd rather have more open land where people can go out and hunt and fish. And I think the quarter cent that goes to it, let it continue. According to Burt, the 52 million that was borrowed is probably never going to get paid back. Again, that's why I go back to the 1 cent increase, so that we can have money to pay our bills.
Thank you. Next question, because we've been talking an awful lot about infrastructure. One of the big items that comes up in the rural estates, Golden Gate Estates area, less of a situation in town, so to speak, west of Collier Boulevard. If you are elected to the county commission in the next decade, will you be supporting either connecting the rural estates residents to sewer? Will you be supporting helping them subsidize septic tank removal, replacement? Will you be helping them to understand the greater infrastructure concerns? How do you think about the connectivity to sewer, the water issues that you've all just mentioned in some way, shape, or form? What will be the first steps you take? How will you think about whether or not that community needs to be connected to sewer?
Am I starting again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so as a member of the estates, and I live on a septic system as well, the main reason why I live in the estates is because I want that minimum government oversight. And so I know a lot of the people that live there have that similar ideals that I do. And so my first thing as county commissioner is simply to talk to them and to get their input on the issues. I can present all the studies and the information that I want, but frankly, a lot of them want that independence, and that's why they move to the estates. That's why they live there, and I respect that about them. So, and when it comes to specifically, putting them on the water, sewage lines, or things to that effect, again, we are a government run by the people, so you got to talk to the people first, and most particularly the people that are affected by the action that's in place. So this is where, especially if you start moving into the rural estates across Collier Boulevard and further east in that direction, people move there for a reason, and you got to respect the rights that they have to their property and what they want to do on it.
Going back about 3 years ago, I got the county commission to acquire the Golden Gate City water and sewer system. By going to a sewer system there, we will eliminate over 9,000 septic tanks. Those septic tanks are polluting the Golden Gate Canal and also getting into the Naples Bay. It also is a health hazard in that community because you have very small lots. Now you look forward to Golden Gate Estates, 2.5 acre lots, 5 acre lots. cost to put in sanitary sewer would be monstrous, and it's not necessary. Now, if there are areas like Ave Marie where you have a lot of residents that are in a smaller area, you can have package plants. We have a plant that services the Ave Marie area. But the idea of putting septic in the entire, or sewer in the entire Golden Gate Estates area just isn't necessary because it is not causing an environmental problem out there.
I would not be a proponent of well, septic, and sewer out in the rural estates. I personally, my house is on that. I would rather keep it the way it is. I certainly would not support having to government subsidize that and more taxation on the rest of the Collier County base for that purpose. If anything, also you look more for those areas where, again, pocketed communities or that are near a waterway or things of that nature. But I would not be a proponent of hooking up septic and water, or sewer and water out in the rural estates.
Yeah, I served as the chairman of the East of 951 Horizon Study in 2006. We studied this. Back then, it was a cost no less than 70 and in excess of 100,000 per lot in Golden Gate Estates. So the simple answer is no. The cost is far too burdensome. Number one. Number two, I initiated a study because I'm about data. Love data. I initiated a study because we all know that the septic systems that we're using are been around forever. The new anaerobic systems, everybody's seen the guy on the video drinking out of an active septic tank. I was going to bring forward a resolution to force people to go to those new septic systems on new construction and rebuilds. The data came back, coming over to 951, we're good. Now you move into Golden Gate City, we're at 6 units per acre. We need the water and sewer.
I was brought that up at one of our last debates. I again own properties in Golden Gate City, 100% for it. The big thing that you have to be very cognizant about, since I do own the properties, what is the cost going to be for the homeowner to hook up? I mean, it can't be like Cape Coral where it was $30,000 hookup fees. So what's more important is what's it going to cost to hook up to that city and sewer water. It has to be something that's going to be affordable to the people that live there because there are a lot of homes in Golden Gate City.
All right, well that is the conclusion of our questions, and you all will get a chance to conclude and give us a closing for 90 seconds, right? So we will go backwards from the way that we started, and we started with, okay, so we'll let Bill go first, and, sorry, we started with the beginning.
It doesn't matter. Let Frank go.
All right.
We'll go. It doesn't, you're the boss, man.
Can I go last?
Mr. Johnson, we will let you go last. So we'll start with Bill.
I'll go
We'll
first.
go down. Thank you.
And I'm not going to take my entire 90 seconds. Again, I want to thank the folks for being here tonight. I want to thank the church pastor was floating around there in the back, the youth that have been here and volunteered their time. This is important civics for our community. It's imperative that you know how and what is going on in your local government. You watch the TV every single day. You see those yahoos talking about what's going on in Washington, D.C. At the end of the day, how many times do those people actually touch your life? It's local government that touches your life virtually every single day, and you need to know the folks that are operating in your local government. I'm going to continue to fight for jobs. I'm going to continue to fight for tax reductions for our populace. I'm going to continue to fight for economic prosperity. And if you want to learn more about me, go to votebilldaniel.com.
Reverse order here.
Correct.
All right. Again, I would like to thank everyone for being here, everyone who's watching at home, and the hospitality shown here tonight. I'm not a career politician. I'm a family man, husband, small business owner. I've lived here since 1979. I know the area. Lifelong conservative Republican. I'm here I want serve the citizens of Collier County and to actually be here to make the best decisions to help Collier grow in a positive and uncertain time. My decisions will be based upon my Christian faith as well as my conservative values. I will work alongside my wife to fight, as I said, against Amendment 4. I also want to continue to help work on the things that we've identified here tonight, the infrastructure issues, the housing issues, and water quality issues. Those are all very important to me, and I will continue to fight. I'm ready to serve the citizens of Collier County, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the Florida Citizens Alliance for sponsoring this. I also want to thank the Alliance for all that they do to improve public education and also what they do to improve private education and charter schools. By having that competition that they promote, that makes everybody better. This election is going to be very important, as I said, in reference to Amendment 4, and I urge everyone to get information about that and vote against that in November. But it also is important in August. And I have said to a lot of people, experience matters. I've been doing this for a long time, and I was out of politics for a number of years, but the county commission in 2016 was rudderless. The county had sued itself. The county had sued the clerk had sued the county. The county spent somewhere between $3 and $5 million on attorney's fees. I ran to fix that system. And within one meeting, we eliminated all of the litigation. We now have a commission that works together. We don't always agree. I'm sometimes on the lone end of a vote. But that doesn't mean that we're not civil and that we're not professional. We are. We have a great team together. All of us believe in God and country and family. Those are basic tenets for all of us. But the issues that I'm working on are ones to improve the quality of life of our citizens, like the Veterans Nursing Home, like a mental health facility. Those types of things are important for the quality of life we have in this community, and I want to continue working in that regard.
Yes, thank you to Florida Citizens Alliance for having us up here today. I can state as a homeschooling dad, I have benefited from the PEP programs that you helped get across the finish line through the state of Florida to help all children, those in public schools, private schools, and in homeschools as well. This is an opportunity for District 3, and what you have to ask yourself as voters is, who do you trust? Who do you trust that you can talk to, that understands your problems? Who do you trust that can put you first in your priorities? It was stated before that I haven't taken any special interest donations from any lobbyists. I'm here with you in District 3. I'm living in the same conditions as you are. I feel the traffic every day going to work. My kids feel the delay coming home from work as well and getting to the schools. You know, I want to help you, and you are my number one priority. If I wanted to get into government for my own thing, I would have stayed as a JAG in the Air Force. It was a great job, but I prioritize family, and I will prioritize your family too, serving on the Board of County Commissioners. So thank you, and I appreciate everything that you do for the community, because that drives up. Please visit frankaroberts.com and learn more about me, and vote for me when it comes to August 20th. Thank you.
Again, thanks you to Alliance. Appreciate everything you've done. I know I'm the best looking guy up here. I don't have to take care of my hair so much. The other thing is that we haven't discussed. To get on the ballot here, there's two ways. You can get 483 petitions, which means standing in front of a Publix or an Ace or going door to door, ringing doorbells to get them signatures. I spent over 100 hours getting them signatures with a cost to get on the ballot of $59.40. There's three other candidates that didn't do that work. Their cost is $5,828.88. Again, do you want the guy that's going to do the work or the guy that's going to pay somebody to do the work? Thanks again.
With that, we thank all of you for answering the questions. We thank the live audience watching at home online. Erica, I thank you for asking better questions than myself. And with that, we applaud you guys, and we will give the stage back to Keith Ball.
Well, thank you. I made a command decision that we didn't have enough people here physically to do the straw poll, so I hope you forgive me for that. But I do want to do a couple things. One, it really takes so much energy for you all to put yourself out, and so we really appreciate you, each and every one of you, coming out and standing up for what you believe is necessary for our county. So thank you. I want to thank both of our moderators. I think you did an excellent job. Even you, Chris. Chris and I poke fun at each other a lot, so I'm sure I'll get poked back on that one near term. Before we close, I want to. You've heard several candidates here mention Amendment 4. And I'm doing this, I think most of you here probably know what Amendment 4 is. It's the abortion amendment. But I want to make sure that those listening have an opportunity to really understand. Amendment 4, on April 1st, our Florida Supreme Court gave us an April Fool's joke that's much more than a joke. There are 7 Supreme Court justices, 3 women and 4 men. The 4 men voted to put a very deceptive, misleading, undefined amendment on the ballot. So I urge each and every one of you to do your homework and then to become an ambassador to reach out to those in your community that you relate to really understand how deceptive this amendment is. It does not define viability. It does not define healthcare providers. And so literally, and I'm not overemphasizing this amendment, if it gets put into our Constitution, will, in my opinion, turn Florida into the wild, wild west when it comes to abortions right up to the time of birth. So I urge you to do your homework and then to reach out to your friends so that this amendment does not get into our Constitution. The last thing I want to do is I want to thank Pastor Craig and the church for this. So please, you're welcome to clap. We're going to do 2 more forums. We're doing one on the 22nd at Grow Church School Board Forum. And then we're scheduled to do one on the 6th of June for House District 81. And that will be at New Hope Ministries. So I urge you to come out and join us for those. As you leave, I'm going to ask you, we welcome donations. We'll share this with the church as a love donation. So if you have the opportunity to put some bucks in the offering as you leave, that would be terrific. So again, thank you so much for coming, braving the traffic situation that we had tonight. And again, thank you for our moderators. Great job. Thank you.
Politics the park, there will be a struggle. Happy supervisor election.
Okay. Oh, yeah.